I'm Nic Rohloff. This is a Dolphins Today mailbag here. Just one day away until the first or second preseason game for the Miami Dolphins against the Washington Commanders. This mailbag was filmed on our live show. If you missed it, well, Tuesdays every day or every week, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you come and join us and hit that sub button. But let's get today's show started with a question from my guy Devo. Who's more deserving to be on this roster, Duke Riley or Channing Tindall? This is an excellent question. Both these players are battling for that linebacker 4 spot. David Long Jr., Anthony Walker Jr., and Jordan Brooks are your clear-cut 3. I only think they keep 4 inside linebackers, so it's down to these 2 players if you're asking me. Zeke Vanderbilt has played well, but I still think it's between Riley and Tindall. I probably lean Duke Riley. Even though Tindall was a third-round pick in 2022 out of the Georgia Bulldogs, he just has never really got it going for the Miami Dolphins. He did have a decent first preseason game, had 6 or 7 tackles, had a sack where he came screaming on an open hole to bring back or down Taylor Heineke. But Duke Riley has just been making more plays in training camp. I know Tindall had the better game against the Falcons, but every report and everything I've seen out of camp tells me Duke Riley is going to have that roster spot. He's also more experienced, which is where the Dolphins defense might want to go with that specific position. Devon Frazier here, where do you think our defense will rank this year? I think they're going to rank very, very high. I believe that this Dolphins defense is extremely talented, and I'm also very bullish on new defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, Anthony Weaver. I don't think Vic Fangio was it last year, man. Fangio, I think, has just kind of lost his fastball, if you will. Hate to call him old, but he's an older guy, and if you don't adjust with the times and change your style of defense to fit the modern NFL passing style, like, it's going to be struggle. Like, why do you think the Dolphins have had so much success against the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick over the past 2 or 3 seasons with Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel? It's because I don't think Belichick was able to really adjust to Mike McDaniel's offense quickly enough that he needed to. So with Anthony Weaver having a different style defense where it's much more attack you, blitz, bring you different fronts, trust your back end and secondary, which is very, very strong with Jalen Ramsey, Kendall Fuller, Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer. Like, I believe this Dolphins defense is going to be top 5 in the NFL. I've been saying that as long as they can stay healthy. It's a big if. The big issue last year, but this team in defense is way too talented and way too loaded at all 3 levels. Defensive line, linebacker, secondary. It does not matter. This defense has been excellently put together by Chris Grier, and as long as Anthony Weaver has his bearings to him, which I believe he does, this Dolphins defense is going to rank in the top 5 this year. Take it to the bank. Also, make sure you're following us on Instagram. At Dolphins Today IG is the handle. We want to get to 500 followers as soon as possible. And when we do that, we're going to do a Q&A from our IG DMs, not on our live show. We put out daily content on our Instagram. If you want Dolphins news, rumors, and content in between each of our videos, our Instagram is the best place to find it. You see the handle down below, Dolphins Today IG. Hit that follow right now. Shorts, we got it all over there. So make sure you go give us a follow. Tim Boo with a question. What is Miami going to do now with the backup quarterbacks? Well, we put out a show earlier in the week on Ryan Tannehill and why I believe that is very important for the Dolphins to really potentially address that backup quarterback spot, because Mike White and Skylar Thompson were absolutely horrific against the Atlanta Falcons in their first preseason game. And I think it would be smart for Grier to be proactive here and potentially go out and sign Ryan Tannehill or go out and inquire about a trade, at least just kind of get the feel for what the backup quarterback market could be, because if Tua goes down, this roster is way too talented to just punt this season. And that's what you would be doing with Mike White and Skylar Thompson playing quarterback. I'm not out here to tell you that Ryan Tannehill or any other backup quarterbacks in the NFL would bring the Dolphins to Super Bowl. That's not what I'm trying to say. But after watching White and Skylar play, I can confidently say they would at least be more competitive and get this team to a playoff game. I know Skylar played in a playoff game before, but watching him try to work with those second-teamers in the first preseason game was a tough watch. I don't think the Dolphins' backup situation right now is very, very good at all, and I'd be going to try to get out Ryan Tannehill or maybe trade for another player out there. Quentin Lott with a question here. You only have 2 more preseason games. Why wait to get a backup QB in O-line personnel? It's a great question. From Chris Grier's perspective, he might be waiting to see if anyone shakes through the cracks or anything like that on roster cutdown day, because the Dolphins have to cut down from 90 to 53. Well, so do 31 other NFL teams, right? So there's going to be players that are on rosters right now that end up becoming free agents. And not all of them are going to be garbage. There are going to be some good players available on the free agency market after roster cutdown day. So what happens if a surprise cut happens with a different team on the interior offensive line? Well, then maybe Miami can go out and scoop one of them up. Or if a quarterback gets cut, like we talked about Tyler Huntley earlier in the week. Are the Browns going to keep 3 QBs with Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, and Tyler Huntley? If Huntley is available, well, maybe Miami goes out and signs one of them if they view him as an upgrade over Skylar, Thompson, or Mike White. So, to me, I know a lot of people, like myself, want to be proactive about these situations and go out and get something done to upgrade this roster now, but it could be just for the simple fact of waiting to see who ends up getting released August 27th on roster cutdown day, because after that, you still got, 10 days until the season begins on September 8th, so there would be time to make the decision on if there's a good free agent available now, or maybe we have to go out and strike a trade for someone that made a 53-man roster. All right, predict the Miami Dolphins 2024 record for me. Let me know what you think the Dolphins are going to go this season down in the comment section. After the final preseason game and after the Dolphins roster cutdown day, we will be doing a video predicting the Miami Dolphins record one final time. So before we get there, though, I want to know what you guys have to say right now. David Ferguson with a question. Why did the Miami Dolphins let go of UDFA quarterback Gavin Hardison? I am asking myself that every single day. I think there was no secret that I had an affection for Gavin Hardison. Like, I wasn't going to come up here and say that I believed he was going to be some otherworldly story and quarterback, undrafted free agent out of UTEP who becomes NFL starter and MVP caliber guy. No, but he had such a strong arm. It would have at least intrigued me to watch him play against other teams in the NFL preseason. Now, ultimately, Chris Grier felt it necessary to cut down to 3 quarterbacks and then find a different roster spot for like an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. But I would have liked to see Gavin Hardison stick on this roster and perform in the preseason, because even if he stunk, I would have rather watched him stink it up in week 1 against Atlanta and said, okay, we know that he is not going to be on this roster, rather than have to watch Mike White and Skylar Thompson play a half of football each and be like, well, both these guys are not good. Now where do we go from here? Gavin Hardison would have at least given you a definitive answer with his play. Ed the J. Guile, hopefully I said that right. Dolphins. Do you think the Dolphins going to fight for the division with the Jets? I think the Dolphins are better than the Jets. And the NFL pundits out there might disagree, but I don't think the Jets are going to have that good of a season. I think they're going to be an 8-9 or 9-8 squad, because do we really believe 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off a torn Achilles is going to be like that dude? Obviously, he is not someone that needs the explosiveness of a quarterback with a fully healthy Achilles. Like, it's a different story if Lamar Jackson tears an Achilles and Aaron Rodgers, right? Because Lamar Jackson needs that Achilles much more at this stage of his career than Aaron Rodgers does. But I don't really love their offensive line in New York. I don't think their wide receivers out of Garrett Wilson are that good. And I think Robert Saleh might be one of the worst head coaches in all of football. Like, I think he's bottom 5. I just don't think that team is as good as people want to make them out to be. I think the Dolphins roster from top to bottom is better, and they have a better head coach. I believe the Dolphins are a better team than them, and I think the Miami Dolphins will win the AFC East, because I see the Jets struggling at 8-9, 9-8, and I see the Bills regressing down to 10-7, hey, maybe even 9-8 as well, with some of their losses in the secondary and wide receiver core too. So to me, I think this is the Dolphins division to lose, and the fact that they're third in terms of Vegas odds just seems like good value to me. Not going to tell you to go bet your money, but all I'll say is that when I went home to New York a couple weeks ago, I might have placed a couple futures on the Miami Dolphins. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel because you don't want to miss any piece of Miami Dolphins news or rumors. We're on the road to 58,000 subscribers. Would like to get there by the end of this week. Almost 300 away. Hit that sub button right now if you want daily content surrounding the Fins. That includes news, rumors, the whole 9 yards. It does not matter. Whatever you need surrounding the Dolphins, we will have you covered. So hit that sub button right now. Also, make sure you go get a Dolphins jersey. Season is just around the corner. If you want to represent Miami on Sundays, best way to do it is get your jerseys at chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. You can get a Waddle jersey, Ramsey, Tua, Phillips, Chubb, Tyreek Hill. It does not matter. Any color, any size, any style, any player. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey is the link. That link will be in the description and comments of today's show. Make sure you get yours today so you could be representing the Miami Dolphins on every single game day. I'll be excited to see the Dolphins wear these at home in week 2 against the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football. So make sure you get those jerseys with them. David Richards with a question here. Are we going to win the AFC? Now, I just stated that I believe the Dolphins will win the AFC East. I do predict them and project them to win the division just because I think their roster is better than everyone else, and I've seen some other teams kind of go downhill, if you will. Obviously, you don't have to worry about New England because that offense is going to be terrible this season. But in terms of the entire AFC, it really depends to me on how this team performs in the regular season. Because if the Dolphins have to go on the road to Kansas City, on the road to Baltimore, on the road to Cincinnati in the divisional round or the AFC Championship game, it's probably going to be very difficult for this team to make it out. It just is this fact of the matter. And I don't want to be negative, but I do feel that way. But on the flip hand, if Miami is somehow a much better team down the stretch than last season, they go 13-4, they are the number 1 seed in the AFC, then I think winning the AFC is very much on the table. Because if teams have to travel to Miami in January, that sets up the Dolphins for a lot more success. Think about this. There's a lot of northern teams in the AFC that are good. Kansas City, Cincy, those teams I mentioned, Buffalo, right? It's a little bit of a style difference having to come down to South Beach to play a playoff game. Now, it's obviously going to be nicer weather, which benefits the Miami Dolphins track and field offense, but it also might be a little overwhelming for players in the heat. We know players struggle in Miami during September and October at times due to the heat in the daylight, but it could play a factor as well at home. It also just helps your own offense because we've known the struggles Miami has had playing in cold games on the road. So if they're all played at home, sure, I give them a chance to make it out of the AFC. But if they have to go on the road for multiple games against Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Kansas City, it's going to be tough. But hey, maybe they get lucky and have to play in Houston. Sure, it's a tough environment, but at least you don't have to worry about the cold because it's in a dome. Angel, do you think Quentin Bell, Ethan Bonner, and Patrick Morris can make the 53-man roster? Great question. I think 2 of 3 will. I believe Quentin Bell will make the roster as the 5th edge rusher. I think Ethan Bonner will make the roster as the 5th or 6th corner. Patrick Morris is a question mark, man. I want him to make it. I think he's had a better camp and so far a better preseason than Elijah Campbell. But if I had to predict all 3 to make it, odds would say all 3 won't make it. But I do think 2 of the 3 will. I hope McMorris can. If not, I hope no other team scoops him up and the Dolphins could keep McMorris on the Dolphins practice squad this upcoming season. Dark Reaper with a magic logo. Shot to the heart, man. But appreciate the question. Appreciate you coming into the stream. Who will win the backup quarterback job, Mike White or Skylar Thompson? Oh, man. Shit, it's hard to answer this question after watching them both play. They were both bad. I mean, Mike White was so bad that I think I'm going to answer Skylar Thompson. And I said that coming in the camp that I believed out of the 2 guys that I think Skylar was the more likely player to be the backup quarterback for the Dolphins this year. I think I'm going to stick to that. Mike White really, really struggled in that first preseason game. That's kind of where I'm going to lean there. Yeah, ideally, none of them are the backup quarterback, and you have a better backup in terms of a trade or maybe even Ryan Tannehill. But man, oh man, those 2 players both have struggled quite a bit. But I will answer that question with Skylar Thompson. He's had more experience in the system. He performed better in the first week of the preseason. So that's my final answer, Skylar Thompson. All right, we asked this earlier, but make sure you get this question in before we end today's episode. Predict the Miami Dolphins 2024 record for me. Double down. Let me know who you think the Dolphins are going to go in the regular season. A lot of fun, man. Can't wait for the season to really get underway. So let me know your record predictions down in the comment section. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram. Set it off the top. Dolphins Today IG is the handle. Best place to get your Dolphins content outside of YouTube, and you'll be covered all 24 hours outside of our YouTube coverage. So make sure you go give us a follow over there. Subscribe over here. Everything is working out in Dolphins land. So Dolphins Today IG. I'll see you on a video tomorrow. Go Fins.